Well, I think I would agree that what you have said and what Drucker said is, in terms of creating customers, is an absolute minimal condition of the existence of a business. I think when I think, and I think we sometimes use the words almost just a little differently, but when I think about the purpose of business, I want to distinguish between an intrinsic purpose and an instrumental purpose in the first place. So business can make people money who can then use that money to do good things. That's a very valid instrumental purpose of business. It can also serve as a place where we have an opportunity to share our faith, and that's a good instrumental purpose of business. I would also want to distinguish, when I talk about purpose of business, between those things that are necessary for a business to exist and those things that are the reason it exists. So, for example, if it doesn't make profit, it doesn't exist. So profit is an absolute bottom line condition of the existence of a business. But I wouldn't say that the business exists for the purpose of profit. And so, as we've talked in the past, but as I've looked at Scripture, what I would say is that as an institution, all of business, not any one business, but all of business exists from God's perspective for the purpose of providing goods and services that would enable the community to flourish, and providing a setting in which individuals can give expression to parts of their God-given identities in meaningful and creative work. And so those would be the key purposes. Not, again, you don't have a customer, you don't have a business, you don't have a profit, you don't have a business. But as a sort of central, the why of it, I would put it in those categories.
Okay. And I wouldn't disagree with that, Jeff, although there are other entities that provide work.
Yes. I wouldn't say it's exclusive. That's right. I agree with that.
And business is still temporal.
Yes.
And that's where I start making distinctions about what's practical or what's necessary for a functioning society versus what is of eternal value.
Okay.
And there's things we do for culture, in the benefit of our culture, that may have little eternal value, but are in fact vehicles so that the message of what does have eternal value can be communicated and can be lived.
So I agree with that, but I'm wondering if we disagree a little bit on whether there is, what exactly is eternal? Because I have some sense, and if you push me very hard, I'm going to get all fuzzy on this, but I have some sense.
We're two non-theologians going to start talking about eternity, but go ahead.
Some sense that the actual product of our work may not disappear, and in some fashion may be purified, redeemed, made whole, and in some way built into the fabric of the eternal kingdom. So I don't think I'm ready to say that business exists just as a place to help other people come to know Christ and thereby be saved. I think there is an eternal dimension, perhaps, of the actual work itself and its product. But don't ask me to say very much more than that.
No. I would agree with that to the extent that the work is contributing to the person and who they are becoming.
Okay. But you wouldn't go further than that.
But it's the person that is eternal.
Okay.
And the only institution that, in my mind, has eternal value is the church.
Okay. So Paul Stevens, do you know Paul Stevens?
Sure.
Yeah. So Paul Stevens came down to visit our faculty once, and he takes my view even further.
Okay.
And he says, I sometimes, as a hobby, carve wooden ducks. And every now and then when I make one that's really good, I look at it and say, maybe this duck will be with me in eternity. Do you see any place for the actual product of work in some way? I mean, not just as we've made it, but refined, redeemed, showing up in the New Jerusalem?
Well, I think there's possibilities that reach far beyond my mental capabilities about what is going to be there in eternity.
Okay.
But I do think Scripture teaches that there's going to be a transformation in our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think we will recognize each other.
Yeah.
So the transformation will not eliminate
Right.
recognition.
Right.
One of the ways I like to test my theologian friends on this whole question is we are going to be in the presence of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And Christ has the ability to be omnipresent.
Yeah.
So what does that mean our bodies are going to be like
Yeah. Yeah.
in eternity? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I
But
think
that's to me that's an interesting thought.
yeah.
But I'm not suggesting that our new body will allow us to be omnipresent.
Yeah. Okay.
But in any event, I think there's all of those things. But I'm comfortable in looking at things like business, things like the automobile in my garage,
Mm-hmm.
or that I drive, or the house I own, or other things as temporal.
Okay.
And having value here as I live in this imperfect world, having value, hopefully, as I try to be a steward
Okay.
of what God has given me. But I'm very kind of so what about whether they have eternal value or not.
You don't think it would change your work if you thought that some product you were making or some service you were delivering in some fashion could in its purest form end up in the New Jerusalem and give you some added motivation, added sense of hope? Anything?
I don't get an extra joy out of that. I get what I get is that if that product isn't doing that
Mm-hmm.
right now,
Yeah.
then am I wasting time?
Yeah. Okay.
Is it a waste?
Okay.
Or am I corrupting what God intended to be? And that is our work beautiful and productive
Okay.
now,
Mm-hmm.
in the present.
Yeah.
Dorothy Sayers has written a wonderful work on why work.
Mm-hmm.
And she wrote it right in the middle of the Second World War. But her emphasis is, hey, there's meaning in work.
Mm-hmm.
And there is eternal meaning in work
Yeah.
because of who we're working with.